It's a partisan power grab. Ad paid for by Stop the Republican Recall of Governor Newsom. Committee major funding from Reed Hastings and SEIU Local 2015.
Get up to 50% off store-wide with styles starting at just $8. Grab faves for the whole fam. Active tops from $10, sweatshirts and hoodies from $18, and jeans from just $19. Find looks you'll love and get up to 50% off store-wide right now. You don't want to miss this. Hurry to Old Navy and OldNavy.com. Valid 7/26 through 8/9.
Cargo get wet, dirty, or even stolen. Stop into TruckSmart and check out the many bed covers they have on display. Trailer hitches, steps, toolboxes, rhino lining, and more. For over 30 years, TruckSmart in Rockland and Auburn has been the best source for outfitting your truck and SUV.
Phillies and Bel Air. Discover fresh finds and save big on all the delicious ingredients that summer brings. Like this week's mouth-watering Rayleigh's USDA Choice Boneless Untrimmed Tri-Tip Roast on sale for just $4.97 a pound. And get sweet, juicy, California-grown black, red, or green seedless grapes on sale for only $1.97 a pound. Enjoy these awesome deals in-store or online with your neighborhood Rayleigh's and Bel Air.
Head to Quick Quack for a 3-minute complete wash.
Right now, a reliable internet connection is more important than ever.
With Internet Essentials from Comcast, you get low-cost, high-speed home internet for only $9.95 per month.
Plus, new customers get 2 months free. Get the flexibility you need with no credit check, no term contract, and no cancellation fees.
And applying is fast and easy.
Bring low-cost, high-speed internet home so you're ready for anything.
Apply now at InternetEssentials.com. Promo ends December 31st. Taxes extra. Restrictions apply.
It's amazing because Discover is accepted at 99% of places in the U.S. that take credit cards. Learn more at discover.com/yes.
Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton at Big C Sports. Coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys around the country, I want to say bienvenido to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond, and London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, we love you in Canada and Africa, the Big C tribe. But there's no one we love more than the good old boys around the country, in the land of the free, and the home of the brave and the beautiful. It is August the 5th, 2021. Buenos Deportes, bonjour. This is Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network. Really appreciate everything that's happening with Big C Sports. I want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C Central, as well as a fleet of Cadillac cars. Also, all around the world, just say Google or Alexa play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear welcome to the show. I will oftentimes say this is the greatest sports show in the universe. It's a pretty salt dog that won't wag its own tails, all fair level work. And I really do appreciate the way things are growing with Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports on Spotify. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. But you better have a smart TV. Oh, you'll be sitting there looking at us so good too. Man, I love pausing, but I will never pause on our Veterans Crisis Hotline. They really are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones get help. If you know anybody going through crisis, and we all know somebody, at least one person going through crisis, pick up the phone and ask for help. It's 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net. You could definitely get some help for our veterans and their loved ones. Also very happy to be affiliated with Valley Homes Weekly TV on Dish TV, Direct TV, AT&T Uverse, TV 53, home of the first place San Francisco Giants, and the home run king, as well as say, hey kid, when you reach out to him, just tell him Big C sent you. Our goal is simple: recruit 10,000 real estate agents and brokers all over this great country, helping to put their property listings on the market on TV, just like McDonald's does it, Nike does it, car dealerships do it, sports teams are doing it. Watch TV and real estate work for you. 800-772-8624. If you're looking for opportunities in real estate, go to bigcsports.pacwm.com. Most of our loans are underwritten by Rocket Mortgage, the #1 lender in the country on the wholesale side. Also, all around the world, I want to say thank you to Xfinity, Comcast TV, and Comcast Spotlight Effect TV for presenting Big C Sports to the universe. Just like in Genesis 1:3, God said, let there be light. Open your cell phones and say it. Play Big C Sports Podcast. You will see all of our apps pop up all over the world. And I really do appreciate the way things are growing with Big C Sports. I want to say this segment sponsored by you, Budweiser Zero. It has 0% alcohol and 100% on your game, all fair and love and war. It goes great with the Big C burger. It is a tasty burger, and it comes with exotic meats. It all goes great with Budweiser Zero. I really appreciate so much that's gone on in the sports universe. Had some great guests on yesterday with Zoom being some excellent technology, and I really do appreciate the fact that they came on and told us about what's going on with their product, endorsed by a lot of professional athletes. And that's what you want. You want to get that professional athlete to endorse whatever you're doing. I want to touch on, we have the Olympics, have some stuff on baseball. Some of the teams that are hitting deep in Major League Baseball have that schedule coming up for August 5th, 2021. All's fair and love and war. You know, there's something called television. We got a football game tonight. It's a Hall of Fame game. Dallas Cowboys, Pittsburgh Steelers. Maybe a lot of people won't watch it, but I think it's a great game that a lot of people love. Football goes way back over 100 years, where a lot of good old boys love watching the game. It's more exciting to watch football than it is to watch basketball. It's more exciting to watch football than it is baseball. Unless someone is hitting deep, then it's hitting deep. Watching the long ball, it's always great to watch. But sports is a billion-dollar industry. And when you think about it, making millions of dollars every year, you know, covering sports. Like practice on Monday. You always got to have practice on Monday. But the sports is so big, and you wonder why people play it. You wonder why this game tonight in Ohio has so many people involved in following the greatest game on earth. I would say on earth, because I'm a football fan and aficionado. I love the game, whether it's Pop Warner football, where I first started playing, or whether it's the high school level, the college level. I covered pro football for many, many moons. I've gone on 20-something years now covering professional football. And I just appreciate the fact that so many people build their whole life around football. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's about the gladiator sport, and a lot of people love the competition and being at odds sometimes. You know, who's on your team and what team do you have. But how the NFL makes money is what we all got to understand. Without the money, there'd be no opportunity for it. So when we think about it, the only way they can figure out how to do this is every television, every radio, every podcast company that covers this sport, they do it because of money. Without the money, there would be no TV on sports covering sports. Football, basketball, baseball, all of it. So TV is the golden goose. But gambling and streaming, it also shows potential. When you look at gambling, it's a billion-dollar industry. People pull out their credit cards and debit cards and create accounts and try to gamble on who's going to win a game. Oftentimes, Las Vegas, they can't wait for the football season. If you're like me, I don't gamble, but almost every day I get a call from some good old boys saying, hey, we got a can't win or a can't miss opportunity. I said that on purpose. We got a can't win or a can't miss opportunity. They're always going to tell you it's a can't miss opportunity. It's all fair and love and war. But is the NFL TV's golden goose? Of course. And TV is NFL's golden goose. But gambling and streaming is catching up. The NFL is the most successful sports league in the United States of America. That means maybe the most successful sports league in the universe. And people can say, well, soccer may be worldwide, but that's also called football. So, you know, it's still football, if that makes sense to you. But I want to tell you, the thing that makes it work, it's the most successful American sports league in history. For all the talk of North America's big three sports, or big four for hockey fans, the reality is just really just pro football, and then there's everything else when you think about it. In 2015, the NFL gave up the tax-free, or the tax-exempt status it held since 1947. Just came out of World War II. Think about that, 1947. In response to mounting criticism for its quickly growing revenue. Now, the league now exists as a trade association made up of and financed by its 32 member teams. There was a time that, you know, before we had the last two expansion teams, Seattle Seahawks, and isn't it something, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, in the last 10 years, two of the NFL's expansion teams have won Super Bowls. Seattle Seahawks beat the Denver Broncos, and they lost They lost to New England because they forgot they had a guy named Beast Mode in the backfield. They didn't want to give it to him for some reason. They could have had 2 Super Bowls. And then last year, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They got it done. I mean, they were the team that was so inept when they first started. But think about this. 32-member league. 31 of these teams are owned individually. There's a clue. There's a quiz. One team in the NFL is owned and retained its non-profit status. The Green Bay Packers. That's the only team. And touchdown Aaron Rodgers had a lot of people sitting on the edge of their seats wondering if touchdown Aaron Rodgers was going to come back and throw more touchdowns for the Green Bay Packers. All fair and level war. The answer is yes. So the NFL earns the lion's share of its money with TV deals. And according to the Chicago Tribune, more than 50% of the league's $15 billion annual revenue, it comes from TV deals. Other revenue streams include ticket sales, merchandising and licensing rights, and corporate sponsorships. The reason we're going to 17 games this year? Not because people love football more. It's another chance for 32 teams to take in revenue from television. They got to grow this business. Roger Goodell knows what he's doing. So despite declining viewership and controversies about player concussions, remember the Dr. Ben Amalu movie Concussion played by Will Smith, and the national anthem, people saying we don't want people taking a knee for justice and liberty and justice for all. Let's just shut up and play the game. So the NFL, some people maybe backed out over that, but the NFL tried to take a stand for for the players and all the things that matter to them. I think it's so important. And when you think about what happened with COVID-19, the global pandemic, the NFL is still making more money than ever because of the private status. And it's impossible to know exactly how much the NFL makes. The league has made an estimated $15.26 billion during the 2019 season, an increase from the $14 billion or $14.48 billion that it brought in reportedly the year before. Think about that. It keeps climbing. And when people say, well, the numbers are down, numbers aren't down. They're using streaming. A lot of people are watching football games from their cell phone and from their laptops. They're not watching necessarily from television. People are cutting the cable, it seems. So when you think about this, the league's showing no intentions of slowing down. It's just not. Commissioner Roger Goodell has done such a fabulous job, in my opinion, targeting $25 billion in revenue by 2027. That's 6% annual growth. So when people say, well, the league, people are losing viewership. No, it's not. They've expanded the way people can watch the game. Podcast is part of that. Big C Sports will be working podcasts with some more angles of NFL coverage in 2021 season. So when anyone says that it's shrinking, it's not. The NFL is one of the most successful sports leagues in the United States. The league gave up its tax-exempt status in 2015. When you think about the great commissioner Roger Goodell, has targeted $25 billion in revenue by 2027. Ladies and gentlemen, that's just 6 years. You can count that on 2 fingers. 6 years. The Green Bay Packers are the only team in the NFL that's run as a non-profit organization. So how does that work? Where they're saying that viewership is down, but revenue's up. And what business could you have lower viewership and more money? It's called the NFL. It's the greatest show on turf. The NFL groups its revenue streams into 2 categories. It's called national revenue. That's when you see the games of the week on Fox or NBC or CBS or ESPN or ABC. And that's part of it. And then you have the local deals where they'll have the local team here in Northern California. Sometime the 49ers, you'll see them picked up on preseason by the local station out of San Francisco. But that's not a national deal. You'll see that on preseason football. So the national revenue consists of TV deals along with merchandising. Almost everywhere you go in the country, what do you see? You see good old boys wearing jerseys, whether it's the Raider jerseys, Cowboys jerseys. You see Atlanta Falcons, New England Patriots, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, LA Rams, 49ers. You see all of it. Denver, Seattle, Chicago. You see it all. It's all over the place. But the Dallas Cowboys, they're the #1 team right now when it comes to revenue and merchandising. Think about the licensing contracts that are negotiated at the national level by the league itself. This money is then divided evenly. They take the money and they divide it so the small markets and the large markets, whether you're in New York or whether you're in Green Bay, Wisconsin, you get the same kind of revenue sharing with 32 teams, regardless of the individual performance. And so people think, well, you're going to miss my dollar because I'm not going to go to the game if some good boys take a knee for social justice. As long as TV covers it, then the NFL is making money and all the teams are making money as well. So that's what they really don't always tell you, but Big C Sports will tell you. The NFL earned over $9.5 billion in national revenue in a COVID-19 2020 season. $9.5 billion, meaning each team, when you hear the people aren't watching the NFL, I'll never watch the NFL again, the numbers are declining. Each team received about $296 million in national revenue from the league. That's a lot of money for a league that TV viewership is declining. Local revenue, which consists of ticket sales, concessions, and corporate sponsors, is earned by the teams themselves in 2020 COVID-19. Hold on to your horses when I tell you this. Get your pen and paper ready, or as Gerald Lewis said, get your popcorn ready. Get all your popcorn ready when they say revenue's down. The Green Bay Packers, they earned $211 million in local revenue. That's 41% of their total revenue that year, which was $507 million. I repeat that again. This is for people who think there's football declining. People say I'm not going to watch it because they're too concerned about social issues and ending racism and all the mean, nefarious things people do, especially when it comes to people of color. Sometimes people who say, we already have liberty and justice for all. There's oftentimes where people of color can get attacked just by being black. We've seen that during the Black Wall Street. We saw that during Jim Crow. You see that doing right now where they say, just shut up and dribble. We don't want to hear about it. Just perform. You got to entertain me. People make baseless threats against people of color because they think they can get away with it, but they can't. The law works both ways. So think about the people that say the Green Bay Packers, they're going to lose a lot of money if they have to eat Aaron Rodgers' contract. Aaron came back, and Big C said he would come back because it's all about the business. Think about the cost of running a professional football team. In 2020, the Packers spent $437 million on expenses, out of which about $227 million it went to players. They're not losing money. $227 million went to players, while the remaining went to stadium upkeep. It's not that much to upkeep the stadium. They'll have people come in and sweep the snow off Lambeau if it's too snowy or if it's too cold. Outside of that, they have people that water the lawn. High schools do that. But this leaves the team an operating income of about $34.9 million, according to Forbes. The Dallas Cowboys are the NFL's richest team. J.R. Ewing, the great J.R. Ewing, known as Jerry Jones, is all fair level war. J.R. Ewing from the movie Dallas, TV series Dallas back in the day. Now I call him modern day Jerry Jones. It's the great J.R. Ewing, if that makes sense to you. Hold on to your horses, people. When people say, I'm not watching football if they keep talking about social justice. The Dallas Cowboys, J.R. Ewing's team, are the NFL's richest team, with $980 million in revenue and operating income of $425 million in a COVID-19 2020 season. You think they're losing money? It's the basic structure of the NFL business. And I want to take the Big C pause. I'm going to come back and talk about how it breaks down. Because talking to some good old boys, they're saying, man, I'm not watching NFL football tonight because it's just Dallas and Pittsburgh, the annual Hall of Fame game. But they don't care. I mean, I'm not going to say they don't care. They do care because they want people to go buy merchandising. You see the merchandising when they advertise. I talked about the jerseys in almost every city where you can see different teams' jerseys, whether it's Cowboys or Raiders or Jets, 49ers. It's the Patriots, Buccaneers, Seattle Seahawks, Los Angeles Rams. It's all over the place. You'll see merchandising. I'm going to take what's called the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. When I come back, I'm going to talk about the massive TV deals. You got to hear this when people say that TV is declining. In the words of the great Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'll be back. All right, we're back from the Big C Pause, also known as the Big C Timeout. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. There's so many apps you can follow, and I really do appreciate the way things are growing with Big C Sports all around the world. We just had the Olympics on from Tokyo, Japan last week. We also had the NBA draft from Brooklyn, New York. Really appreciate that. DC Libraries with the Black Sports Network, Black Sports TV Network, and also August Wesley from the Olympics. Had Lawrence Thompson from the NBA. We had Zariah Matthews from Disney Corporation, casting director, and we had Zoom Bang yesterday with Aaron Gonzalez and his partner. That Jim was able to save the World Series when he had a pitch that almost went yard. I think he had a little bit of fun doing the show yesterday with Zoom Bang's All Fair and Level More. But I want people to think about this. This is why Big C Sports is also seen on Xfinity Comcast. So in the NFL football season, you can not only see Big C or hear Big C Sports on podcast, you can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. I think I'm one of the hardest working men in show business. It's all fair and love and war. Massive TV deals. Get your popcorn ready. Football is hands down the most viewed sports in the United States of America. For people that say, oh, the ratings are down, I'm not going to watch football. I told you, people are watching on streaming now. They can even follow on Big C Sports on television. My son Malcolm brought me into that, maybe hip to that, before we were even on TV. He said, Dad, pick up the remote, say Big C Sports, and you'll see it on TV. About a week later, we'll be on TV. 19 of the 20 most viewed TV broadcasts in the U.S. history are Super Bowls. My first Super Bowl was Super Bowl 33 in San Diego. It was Denver Broncos versus the Green Bay Packers. Talk about Green Bay had touchdown Brett Favre at the time for Green Bay. They also had for the Denver Broncos touchdown John Elway, even though Terrell Davis had 200 yards rushing in 3 quarters and John Elway got the MVP. But 19 of the 20 most viewed TV broadcasts in United States history are the Super Bowl of various years. In seasons, NFL games are broadcast live in the United States on Mondays, on Thursdays, and on Sundays. We've even seen some games on Saturday, especially when it comes to the playoffs. We've seen it all the time. These games are consistently in the highest rated TV shows on television, so social media companies have shelled out big bucks for the rights to broadcast them. That's why Big C Sports want to start covering NFL football in 2021. It's a $15 billion industry. And some people say, oh, no one's watching. $15 billion. Just told you, NFL football has 19 of the 20 most viewed TV broadcasts in the history of the United States. So I guess people aren't watching. That doesn't make any sense. If I can count, I may not be the best in math, but let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. I can count the 20. NFL football is the top-rated show in 19 of 20. That's a clue for people that's saying they're not going to watch. The NFL currently has TV deals. Again, people are watching the Dallas Cowboys tonight take on the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's the annual Hall of Fame game. You got to keep that in mind when people say, I'm not watching. It's about the TV. I want to tell some people why it's so important and why Big C Sports is also venturing in to the broadcast sides of NFL football. It's a $15 billion industry. I'm going to get a part of that pie. But the NFL, and thanks for all the people that are making that happen, but as I show up every day, I don't sleep. I work in my sleep. You can hear my show 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all over the world. Not many people can say that. And I do my own production. I do the editing. I do the broadcasting. I select the talent of the show. I get help from my son Malcolm. I also at times get help from Big C. There are times when I have people calling from the Olympics in Tokyo, Japan. People that call in from the NBA in New York. People that call in that cover companies like Zoom Bang out of Arizona and also out of Texas. People that call in from Miami, Florida. People that call in from Seattle, Washington, San Francisco, Los Angeles. I get hits from all over the world. from France, from Italy. You got people following from Africa, people following from Australia, New Zealand, England, France. That's Big C Sports. Black owned. I rise and shine. And some people have the nerve to say, well, so? It doesn't make any sense. They say the same thing to TV. I want people to realize before we come up on another Big C pause, why Charlton with Big C Sports is making a venture into broadcasting NFL football in 2021. The current, I gotta tell you this, write this down, young people. The NFL currently has TV deals with CBS Sports. I've worked with them. NBC Sports, owned by Comcast. I've worked for them. Fox Sports, I've worked for them. ESPN, owned by Disney and Hearst. I've worked for them as what they call independent contractor status, but now I got my own show. I don't need to work for them now. I work for myself. But I started with Fox Sports back in 1996. It was John Madden and Pat Summerall's crew. And some people go, so? It's crazy. Just Google the name Big C Sports, you see us pop up all over the world. And some people go, so? Think about this, why I'm going to be doing the broadcasting this year, either post-game and pre-game or live NFL broadcasting with Big C Sports Podcast. You already hear guys like Chris Collinsworth doing the sports update. They're featuring through iHeartRadio. My stuff can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. There's Podchaser. There's Podcast Addict. There's SoundCloud. There's so many apps. Xfinity, Comcast TV, Effect TV. It's on iHeartRadio app on television on Xfinity, Comcast TV. It's a Roku TV. Amazon Fire TV. There's so much that it's like, how does one person end up on so many platforms all over the world and people go, so? Think about this. This is where people want to get into TV. When you commit to pay the NFL a total of $39.6 billion between the 2014 and 2022 season, I'll repeat that. $39.6 billion. That's commitment to pay the NFL between 2014 and 2022 seasons. Big C Sports is part of that. The three broadcasters that share rights to Sunday Night Football. Are you ready for some football? We've seen that many moons ago. You got to pay attention. As well as annually rotating rights to the Super Bowl, fees paid by these networks are set to rise by about 7%. That's an increase. That's a good thing. That's why Big C Sports is part of it. That's why I don't sleep. It doesn't matter what people say about you. There's always going to be people that want to say, well, I don't watch football. Oh, I don't pay attention to you. I don't even listen to that. I mean, people can do what they want. I'm trying to reach out to young college people that want to build a career for yourself. When you build it, they will come. Pay attention to these numbers. We're going to take what's called the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. When I come back, I want the high schoolers all over this country and the college kids too, and even some of the adults. Listen to the numbers I'm going to give you. In the words of the great Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'll be back. All right, we are back from the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. You can follow on so many apps, and I'm talking about all over the world, all over the United States of America. Just like God said in Genesis 1:3, let there be light. I say that every single show because I'm asking God for God's providence. When you think about that, Ephesians 3:20, it's happening as we speak. It's been happening since 1996. Been a part of national TV broadcast. The NFL, about $3.1 billion per year in 2022. Who's working for a company that's making $3.1 billion per year? In the same year, ESPN signed a deal to pay the NFL $15.2 billion to 2021 for the rights to Monday Night Football alone. And for people that say, I don't watch football, it's declining. It's not declining. Don't believe the hype. There was a good old rap group back in the day. Don't believe their hype. Don't believe the hype. All's fair in love and war. And when you think about it, in 2018, Fox Sports signed an additional deal. Again, when people say we're in a COVID-19 environment, people aren't watching football, 2018, this is why Big C Sports is part of this NFL package. In 2018, Fox Sports signed an additional deal for $3.3 billion for exclusive rights to Thursday night. That's just one night. One night they signed that. I'm going to repeat it again because some people don't believe it. They say so. They say NFL's decline. It's not declining. They just have more avenues of how it's covered. Fox Sports signed additional deal for $3.3 billion for exclusive rights Thursday night for Thursday Night Football, outbidding NBC Sports and CBS Sports. The business is not declining for you guys in college, guys and gals, ladies and gentlemen in college. Don't let anyone tell you that this is not a great business. Sure, there are some businesses that have gone out of business. I'm also in the real estate industry. Some people have closed doors. There's a lot of retailers that close doors. I went by a major shopping center just about a week ago to buy some cologne and look at some shoes, and they were closed. Major name, I'm not going to say their name, but they're closed. It's a shame because they've been around for many, many years, and a lot of people go there and buy merchandising. But when you think about this, it's so important. Big C Sports is also into apparel. I have my own Big C Sports merchandising. And people go, so? This stuff is real. I wear the hat every day. People say, man, that's a nice looking hat. What is it? It's Big C Sports. Merchandising and licensing deals, although the majority of its national revenue comes from its monster TV deals, the NFL also makes money by selling companies the rights to sell them items that represent the NFL. People say, oh, the people aren't watching. That's not true. I'm talking to young people that are still willing to open up their minds and grow. The partnerships with the NFL, like Nike, signed a 10-year deal, licensing deal with online sports retailer Fanatics 2018. This deal makes Fanatics the exclusive merchandiser of adult-sized Nike garb. It's like T.D. Jakes, one of my favorite pastors. I listen to him a lot. He talks about you got to be careful of minefields and people that have a smile on their face and they're looking to stab you. They have sharp tongues. They will cut you up with their tongues, but they don't understand that you'll have protection. Anyone makes any threats against you, just go to law enforcement. I give that show every time. This is oftentimes, especially for African Americans, sometimes people try to intimidate you with their words, and they're saying they're going to threaten you and they're going to do certain things to you. Just pick. You don't have to go fisticuffs. Just pick up the phone and call 911. Let them explain to law enforcement what they were going to do when they thought they could intimidate you. Especially for African Americans, don't let people do that to you. That's happened too many times since 1619. So the deal makes Fanatics the exclusive manufacturer for all adult-sized Nike brand merchandising sold through the NFL's online store. The value of this deal went undisclosed, but in all likelihood, when you think about what they've done with the NFL and their powerful merchandising, I want people to realize this is a great business for college kids to get into. You don't have to hope and pray. Just get into it. The value of this deal went undisclosed, but all likelihood is pennies compared to the NFL's TV deals. According to Navigate Research, a Chicago-based firm that specializes in the evaluation of sports and entertainment marketing investments, only about 10% of the NFL's yearly revenue comes from those deals. So when people say, I'm not going to a game, tell me who's not going to the New England Patriots when they host the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tom Brady coming back home. They don't even have enough tickets for that game. On average, when you think about it, ticket sales and concessions, although ticket sales constitute an important revenue stream for individual NFL teams, they are nonetheless relatively small compared to quickly growing revenue from TV deals. You're probably noticing a pattern here. I told you podcast and streaming is a part of that too. On average, NFL stadiums seat about 70,000 fans. The game usually gets sold out. This doesn't have a lot of opportunity for growth when you think about it. They're not going to build 100,000 seat stadiums. The average ticket price has increased by about 7% annually. I wish it had decreased by 7% to make it easier for more people to go, especially young people of color that make up about 70% of the league. The average price of an NFL ticket cost about $30 in 2000, so 21 years ago, increased to about $151 in 2020. but the added revenue from these increases are negligible when compared to revenue from TV. The one thing that teams can do is choose to renovate their stadiums to add more seats and concession stands. Such as renovations are costly and disruptive, but usually pay off. Since 2010, keep this in mind, I'm talking to young people, the Green Bay Packers spent more than $370 million gradually updating its stadium. Lambeau Field is a beautiful stadium. It has nowhere near the outdated look that it had 20 years ago. Because in 2010, they spent a lot of money on upgrades. And it's in the neighborhood. It's not like out in the industrial part of town or some downtown location. Lambeau Field, including adding more seats, their yearly ticket revenue jumped from $48 million to $71 million. That's a lot of money. NFL teams can also use their stadiums to host non-football events like concerts, but opportunities for revenue growth from these events have the same limitations. An NFL team earned about $7 million on average in ticket sales from a single stadium. In 2016, about 55% of that revenue is used to pay athletes or musicians. 10% goes to general stadium administration, and 5% goes to teams' coaching staff. 5% is paid in taxes, and the remaining 8% is all profit. The league is not losing money. It's just not. Like ticket sales, concessions are peanuts compared to TV deals. Concessions contribute to about $3 to $5 million of the average NFL team's revenue, but the margins on selling food at games are extremely high. Beer and soda at stadiums have margins over 90%. Only 8% of the average NFL team's profit is based on a margin of ticket sales. So when people say, I'm not going to a game, 92% of their money comes from outside of going to the game. So I'm saying they want you to go, but 92% does not come from you driving to the stadium and buying a ticket, sitting down in the seat, ordering the Big C burger. I know it's a tasty burger. I know it comes with exotic meats, and also the Budweiser Zero. I know it has 0% alcohol, and it has 100% on this game, but only 8% comes from that. This is important also to notice for you high schoolers and colleges. Corporate sponsors pay NFL teams to display their logos on players' uniforms. You'll see a lot of that lately. Golden State's doing it. You'll see teams all over the country. The Lakers are doing it. They have logos. NFL's doing it. They're all adding logos to their merchandising now because they get paid on that. I'm not going to get into the names of the logos. You can do that when you watch the games. Watch Major League Baseball. They're putting logos on their uniforms. NFL's putting logos on their jerseys. So people say, oh, the money, is drying up. It's not drying up. TV transactions, merchandise, etc. 2018, the NFL pulled in over $1.3 billion with a B in sponsorships. My partner ARK and I just looking for $6 billion. All fair, love, and war. It's going to happen. The most coveted sponsorships are naming rights to NFL stadiums, according to the New York Times. Big C Sports talking about the New York Times. When you think about the naming rights and naming rights to MetLife Stadium in New York City and AT&T Stadium in Dallas, Texas, they're both worth $19 million a year. And you say you're not going to the game. They really don't miss you because they make money from TV revenue. From TV revenue. This might blow your socks off, especially for the young people. I'm bringing it to you on Big C Sports. You may not hear it elsewhere. The future plans for growth, why Big C Sports is making its input like one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind in Big C Sports. Why I'm part of this NFL platform. Because future plans, TV growth, contrary to claims, TV's not dying at all. I've been telling that for years. At least not now when it comes to football. The value of the NFL's TV deals has skyrocketed in the last few decades. By all accounts, it will likely continue to do so. As a result, the NFL's biggest focus for reaching its aspirational $25 billion in revenue by 2025 is continuing to secure bigger and bigger TV deals. Now you say, what's that got to do with Big C Sports? I told you my son Malcolm, about 4 years ago, he said that Big C Sports will be on television. You can go to Xfinity Comcast TV and see Big C Sports. It's right there on television. like every other program. This is what's growing. I've been studying this for 5 years now. I've been doing Big C Sports for 6 years. Although TV is still king when it comes to watching football, what Big C Sports is doing, streaming, is on the rise. In 2017, Verizon signed a new $2.5 billion deal with the NFL for 5 years of streaming rights. That is twice the size of the deal Verizon had with the NFL before. In April of 2018, Amazon signed a comparatively small deal of $130 million for 2 years of streaming rights. That's what Big C Sports is doing, streaming. If the growth in TV deals in the last few decades are any indications, these deals, like along with Big C Sports Podcast, will continue to grow rapidly over the coming decades. That's a clue. So young people, when you're wondering how you're going to get your foot in the door, you got to learn to do podcasts. I produce my show. I edit my show. I do the content of the show. I do it without a teleprompter. I don't have a teleprompter to look at. I don't have some producer in my ear telling me what to say. I do all the stats. I do the research. My son Malcolm helps me. He sends me stuff on NBA all the time. Part of Big C, at times he does his thing. But sometimes you just got to be like that eagle. You got to fly high. The show must always go on. You got to rise and shine. My mama always says that. Although the NFL has always officially been against, if you believe this, they've been against gambling, right? All those bookies, tell some of those bookies that call me, hey man, I got this great no-miss game, right? They call me about the Hall of Fame game. Who's going to bet on the Hall of Fame game? Some people will. All fair and level war. Okay, when people want to know why is sports a billion-dollar industry, in May of 2018, the United States Supreme Court, the law of the land, decided to let states determine whether or not to legalize sports gaming and gambling. Supreme Court did. As of December 2020, there were 20 states have already fully legalized the practice, while 7 more have passed bills to do so. And people say, oh, football is shrinking. It's not shrinking. The Supreme Court knows that. That's why in December of 2020, 20 states out of the 50 have already fully legalized the practice, while 7 more have passed bills to do so. Pay attention to the Supreme Court, not some of your friends who say, oh, I'm not watching because people are taking a knee and they're saying that black people want liberty and justice for all, and some people don't care. They'll even do things to try to, create conflict and drama. But to capitalize on this, the NFL could set up betting parlors in stadiums. That's coming, people. Partner with established casinos. That's coming. Set up online sports gambling in portals. That's coming. Among other things, the possibilities are vast. That's why there's no way the growth of says NFL won't explore as many options as it can. That's why I'm telling young people, get into this business. It's a great business. And everybody loves the business. That's why they talk about it so much, even tonight's Hall of Fame game. And I'm gonna close with a little bit more on this because it's so important. I'm gonna talk a little bit about some baseball that's going on as well. I want people to understand that sports is a billion-dollar industry, and boys and girls sports is the foundation to this billion-dollar industry. When we were at Salem Media in 2015, it's a financial channel. I think they have over 100 stations throughout the country. When we came on and did our thing with Big C Sports Podcast, they got smart. They started broadcasting NFL football for the first time in their history, primarily because of 2 black men. And people don't want to give us credit, but I got the email from corporate management. They achieved the total budget for the entire 2016 year in 1 month due to Big C Sports bringing sports to a financial station. I still got the email. So when you think about this, that's just why I'm in the business. There are some challenges with COVID-19, but they'll deal with that. It kind of has, the Wall Street Journal talks about it and estimated that the league could lose as much as $4 billion in revenue because of the pandemic. According to reports from Bloomberg, this could simply be a minor temporary setback like a speed bump, and sports fees continue to surge. They're not declining, they're increasing. They're talking about going to $27 billion before the end of this decade. It's so important, people. Reliance on star power. The NFL relies on its star athletes to keep fans coming back. According to the NFL top 5 stars in 2020 Big C Sports had this yesterday. Lamar Jackson, I call him Superman Jackson. He wears a product called Zoom Bang. I had the CEO on yesterday and another sales rep. They talked about Lamar Jackson. The top 5 stars for the NFL. Lamar Jackson, Baltimore Ravens. Russell Wilson, Seattle Seahawks. Talked about both of those players yesterday. Aaron Donald, Los Angeles Rams. Touchdown, Patrick Mahomes, Kansas City Chiefs. And Michael Thomas, New Orleans Saints. Big C Sports covers those athletes all year long, especially during football season. But when the league's biggest stars begin to fade, so do TV ratings. And this was the case in 2016, 2017, and 18, when the ratings fell slightly for 3 consecutive years. In 2017, for instance, the league's most popular players were injured. J.J. Watt, down in Houston, now he's in Arizona. Aaron Rodgers, Green Bay. Andrew Luck has since retired, but he was Indianapolis. Rob Gronkowski left New England and retired to do some type of other business. Now he's back in the saddle, down in Tampa Bay East. Russell Houdini Wilson doing his thing up in Seattle. Von Miller, Denver Broncos. Eli Manning, New York Giants, are both like Odell Beckham Jr. The same logic also applies to popular teams when they face new popular opportunities. It's not decreasing, people. Only about half of the 10 most popular teams made it to the postseason in 2017. Could be connected to the 20% drop in viewership. That's why the NFL pushes hard to market players. And Big C Sports love being a part of that. And I love, it's a bottom line. I wanna close with this because I want to touch about the Hall of Fame game in Ohio tonight. So what NFL team is worth the most money? We talked about it before. How about them Cowboys? The Dallas Cowboys is worth the most money in the NFL. The team brought in revenue of about $980 million. And people say it's declining. Earning about $425 million in operating profits for the 2020 season, according to Forbes magazine. You want to know why Jerry Jones has that big yacht? Because he has lots of money, lots of blankety-blank money, all fair at Leavenworth. So I tell young people, get into it. Don't let someone detract you and tell you that football is not a great sport. They have the Hall of Fame game tonight, and the Cowboys linebackers are looking to try to make some noise, even though they have criticism at times. But this Cowboys and the Pittsburgh Steelers, Jerry Jones doing his thing, they're doing a lot. I really appreciate what they're doing with the Dallas Cowboys, marketing as the best football marketing franchise in the United States of America. And it's going to be with the Hall of Fame game tonight. Everybody has their own thoughts about should they watch the Hall of Fame game. Of course you should watch the Hall of Fame game. Everybody wants to watch the Hall of Fame game. That's why they have it on television. It may not be a sold-out game like a playoff game, definitely not like the Super Bowl. But for anybody that's telling you, young college people, that want to know what kind of career to get into, the NFL, the Super Bowl, in 19 of 20 seasons, was the number 1 rated program in that year. In the universe, think about that. Number 1 out of 19 out of 20 seasons. That's a clue. And that's why I tell everybody, pay attention to the game. It's a great game. A lot of people love the game. You just got to make yourself a part of the game. Like I love being a part of the game with Big C Sports. I'm going to come in and talk a little bit more about some Major League Baseball and the schedule tonight that's on display. What a game. Last night, Chavez Ravine, the Los Angeles Dodgers and the Houston Astros, man, they were hitting deep last night at Dodger Stadium, Chavez Ravine, even though the San Francisco Giants, they kept ahead of them in the win column. It's going to be hard to catch the Giants if they keep playing the way they're playing. I don't know if they can be caught. They would have to lose a lot of games, and it just doesn't seem like that's going to happen. I know the Dodgers have a great team. I know even San Diego, they lost to Oakland last night in extra innings over there at the Coliseum in Oakland. So there's so many people that are saying they want to figure out how to be a part of the sports business, especially coming out of college. You got to figure it out. They always find a way to make sure that it will be a viable business. They're not messing around with the money streams. It will always be part of a viable business. If you're a college kid and you're trying to figure out how do you get your foot in the door of the football, you just got to do it. Don't let people talk you out of it, because if I did that, then I wouldn't be doing Big C Sports Podcast that's on so many platforms, about 14 different platforms all over the world, all fair and level war. The pitch, hit deep, right field, back to the wall, home run. It's all fair and level world. The glove as well, the long ball, and men love to hit deep. Today is scheduled Thursday, August 5th, 2021. Seattle's at the New York Yankees. Tyler Anderson is on the mound for the Seattle Mariners, and DJ LeMahieu is on the mound for the Yankees. And so we'll see what happens with that great pitching duo. Cleveland, they're at the Toronto Blue Jays. The pitch, hit deep, right field, back to the wall, home run. You know, my voice is a little bit losing at times when you have so many home runs. Saying home run, it's all fair and level war. Tristan McKenzie is on the mound pitching for Cleveland, and at bat is George Springer. When you think about that, I mean, I love this game. It's such a great game. Pittsburgh, they're at Cincinnati, and I'm going to say one more time to my boys, the pitch, hit deep, right field, back to the wall, home run. And you have the Pittsburgh Pirates at the Cincinnati Reds. The pitcher to watch in this contest is Will Crowe, and the good old boy is doing his thing. The Kansas City Royals will take on the Chicago White Sox in the beautiful city of Chicago. Now, the Royals are 18-35 on the road, and the White Sox, they are 38-19 at home. So that's you can do the math about who's going to win that game. Also, you have pitching away as Daniel Lynch. He's only 1-3 on the season, has a 6.95 ERA, not very good. And in Dallas, Acuna is 7-4 with a 4.51 ERA for the White Sox. Keep that in mind when you good old boys are saying, hey, I got a can't-miss deal for you. They all have a can't-miss deal when it's not their money. All fair and level war. The Minnesota Twins at the Houston Astros. The pitch, hit deep, right field, back to the wall, home runs. All fair and level war. Minnesota Twins 21-33 away. Houston Astros are 34-20 at home. And the pitching is Griffin Jacks. And then that's for the Minnesota Twins home pitcher is Framber Valdez. He's 7-2 with a 3.01 ERA. A great game coming up. If you go down to the city of St. Louis, Missouri, the Atlanta Braves come in. The Braves are 27-27 away. The Cardinals are 30-23 at home. Something's got to give. And you have the pitch, hit deep, right field, back to the wall, home run. Say hello to my little friend. You have a great pitching matchup. Touki Toussaint is the away pitcher for the Braves. 4.76 ERA, not the best. Wade LeBlanc for the Cardinals. He has a 3.15 ERA, but it still should be a great game. Those two great teams, the Atlanta versus St. Louis, the gateway to the Arch, gateway to the West. We also have the pitch, hit deep, left field, back to the wall, home run. Say hello to my little friend, the great Tony Montana. You know that Scarface came out of Miami, so I love paying homage to the great Tony Montana. He was a mean character. I mean, when he says, say hello to my little friend, he was talking about doing some damage. He wasn't talking about home run. All fair and level war. Pitchers is Drew Familia with the New York Mets. And then for Miami Marlins, Ross Detweiler. Good old boys watching that game. Should have been a good game. Final, I don't give out scores because I don't want to mess up people who are recording things on the DVR. All fair and level war. You got to always rise and shine. Boston Red Sox at the Detroit Tigers. And Martin Perez was going up against Tariq Skubal. The pitch, hit deep, right field, back to the wall, home runs. All fair and level war in Detroit. Love the Boston Red Sox, what they're doing. Another great matchup in Major League Baseball. California style, Los Angeles Angels at Texas Rangers. You have Dylan Bundy was on the mound. Spencer Howard was on the mound on that one for Texas. And I won't give out the scores, but that was a pretty good ball game if you're one of those teams. I won't say which one. One of those teams scored a lot of runs. The other didn't score as much. All fair and level war. I just tell everybody, no matter what you do, keep rising and shining. Chicago Cubs at the Colorado Rockies. The pitch, hit deep, right field, back to the wall, home run. Say hello to my little friend at Coors Field. What a game that was. Jake, the pitcher for Chicago, Jake Jewell, and Tyler Kinley for the Colorado Rockies. I'm not saying anything other than watch that game if you have the chance to DVR it or Google it, whatever you got to do. And now another game that is so exciting for August 5th. I'm telling you, I want World Series tickets. I'm going to use my media pass for the World Series, especially in San Francisco this year. San Francisco Giants on the road at Arizona. Went down to the desert to get some suntans, I guess. You have Tyler Rogers was on the mound. That good old boy did his thing. Tyler Gilbert on the mound also for Arizona. I won't give out scores. You can tune in to Google it, or you can watch it if you record it and see who won that game. The pitch, hit deep, left field, back to the wall, home run. Say hello to my little friend, the Philadelphia Phillies at the Washington Nationals. Mauricio Lavora was on the mound for Philadelphia, and Kyle Finnegan was on the mound for Washington. It's all fair and level war. That's Major League Baseball schedule for 2021. Today is August 5th. I tell you, I've been getting about 3 hours of sleep. All's fair and level war. I love the sports business. I also want to touch on some things. Major League Soccer, Eastern Conference, you have New England. They're at the top of that mound with Orlando City, followed by New York City FC, followed by Philadelphia and Columbus, and then CF Montreal, and then DC United. New York, Toronto FC, Cincinnati, Atlanta, Chicago, and Inter Miami CF, all fair and level war. I'm going to take you to the Western Conference, Seattle, in Sporting Kansas City, LA Galaxy, Colorado, Los Angeles FC, Minnesota United, Real Salt Lake, Portland, followed by Houston FC, Dallas, San Jose, Vancouver, and Austin FC, all fair and level war for the good old boys that love this game of soccer. But I can tell you this for sure, soccer does not outdraw the NFL, not the United States, when it comes down to it. So keep that in mind. I think LeBron James also has some talk about whether it's a boom or bust for the LA Lakers. Some people are saying that players are too old. I think LeBron James knows what he's doing. When you think about it, these two good old boys are longtime friends. LeBron James, 36 years old, Carmelo Anthony, 37. They came into the league in 2003, and them good old boys are finding a way to make sure that the Los Angeles Lakers are still going to be in the hunt when it comes to football, or basketball, or baseball. Football's the top, even more than LeBron James' name. He can sell basketball like Steph Curry can, Luka Doncic can, you have Kawhi Leonard can, Giannis Antetokounmpo can, but they cannot outsell football. Football is king, no matter how old or young you are. I want to turn to something before we get out of here on the beautiful August the 5th, 2020, actually 2021. And then again, Bryson DeChambeau in the world of the golf universe, the great Bryson DeChambeau, says he has no regrets not getting vaccinated. In Memphis, Tennessee, he shot at the British Open last month, but positive COVID-19 test knocked Bryson DeChambeau out of the Summer Classic Games, or the Summer Games in Tokyo, and knocked the wind out of his sails. Still, despite the team representing the United States in the Olympics, suddenly, think about this, turning into the unfortunate reality of missing the Summer Games. DeChambeau, out of California, doesn't regret not getting vaccinated. He doesn't have to. It's his own opinion. And he says this thing, the vaccine, doesn't necessarily prevent it from happening. DeChambeau said Wednesday at the TPC Southwind following his program round ahead of the World Golf Championship, FedEx at St. Jude International. He says, I'm young. I'd rather give the vaccine to other people who need it. I don't need it. I'm healthy. I'm a young individual, continue to be healthy, and continue to work on my health. That's the great Bryson DeChambeau. And so he's, again, I say talk to your doctor, whether you get the vaccine or not. There's always, people religious. My mom had always sent me these letters when I was in college with the sports page. And she said there was a letter, it says Psalms 10. And it's about footprints in the sand. It says, God, why have you forsaken me? So many people are throwing arrows at me. And God said, my precious, precious child, when you saw that one set of footprints, it was I who carried you. Everybody going through something, pick up the phone and ask for help. Don't let anybody try to intimidate you, because some people want to put you in a situation where you react out, and then they can go running and say, look, he yelled at me, or they did something to me. And oftentimes there's too many young men of color that fall for that trap. Have people put things in writing when they threaten you or whatever, because their goal is to try to have you act out of character. But that jig is up, okay? Always call 911. Always make a report. If anyone's threatening you, If you're a woman and you're being intimidated by some man, or if you're a man being intimidated by a woman, make a police report. Because oftentimes when the police get involved, then people change their tune. And I want to make sure people understand that. I want to run down the Olympic count of gold medals. Olympic count today, China has 34 goals, United States 29 goals, Japan has 22 goals, Australia has 17, Russia has 16, Great Britain has 16, Germany has 9, followed by France with 7, with Italy, the Netherlands, New Zealand, Republic of Korea, Hungary, they have 5, Canada has 5, and Cuba has 5. I brought that to you on the Big C Sports Show. I want to tell everybody, if you enjoy Thursday Night Football, the Dallas Cowboys and the Pittsburgh Steelers, all's fair in love and war, always rise and shine, no matter what you do in life. You got to find out who's on your team, try to put things in writing, and no matter who you are, especially young African-American kids, never, ever, ever let somebody goat you into doing something foolish. That's why you just call and make a report, because the dirt comes out in the wash, and sometimes people think they can intimidate you, and no one should deal with that, especially men, women, or children. I always make sure that's happened, as I've even had people try to make threats against me, but I'm too smart. I talk to my lawyer tells me what to do, and I go to law enforcement and let law enforcement take over. And if people want to do something foolish, it's already been reported, and you know who you are, and so does law enforcement. I say that for every man and woman and child around the country. As I always say, my mama says you got to rise and shine every day. Back in the day, there's a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man, and he would always tell Ali, you float like a butterfly, you sting like a bee, you rumble, young men rumble, with all you've got to use, how can you lose? As my mom always says, there's never ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. If you know any man, woman, or child going through that garbage, pick up the phone and ask for help, because no man, woman, or child should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports Show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.